Dudes, let's get this party started, huh, man? Uh, Chris Poulos here for the stream. I'm really glad I can do it because I wasn't sure if I could do it today, but here we are. And as you can see, I have some dank memes right here that you may or may not have seen. Depends on how much of a gamer you are. And we'll be going through this. And welcome to the stream. This is the Awake Show. We really go in depth here. We try to get people interacting and give their own opinions. I give mine. I run the show. I usually give mostly my opinion, but it's sometimes I'm just hoping that some people will comment their own life experiences. But today is kind of an oddball show because it's a mixture of a lot of different topics, but that have connecting themes. So the first point of this particular episode was the darkness. I was trying to get views from Mama Max's whole debacle with YouTube, and he gained a lot of traction there, exposing how YouTube is just doing a terrible job in defending the good guys and not stopping the bad guys when it comes to child predation. And I heard that he actually made some pretty big strides, and YouTube responded, and things worked out well. So congratulations, Mama Max, for your success and keeping up the good fight there. Um, and then what happened was, as I reflected on the stream and how it would be several weeks until I could actually do it, I thought of other things. I thought of um, this whole uncovering of constant more darkness on the societal side. The darkness is the theme of this show. I was trying to fit everything in with these pictures here, and apparently the background went black, but I realized that's perfect for what we're talking about. So I'll start with Mama Max and his fans. Why does he have a following? What is going on there, and what I think could actually be good coming from that. And then I'll move into the heck's going on with the channel Black Pilled, who I watch, and what if you didn't know what a black pill is, basically there's like all these, there's the red pill and the blue pill, okay? Then there's also woke, which is like, woke is essentially just being awake as a socialist sleeper cell. You're a sleeper cell, and now you're woke, and now you're here to start the commie revolution. I even have an anarchist fellow, my arch nemesis. If you can spot him at the bottom left, he's an example. I'll get to him. But he's woke, man. He's woke now, and now he knows that the system is keeping us all down. And that's somewhat true, but the thing with woke is it's all emotions, and it's usually manipulated by the very people they claim to hate. So the real choice is blue pill or red pill. Blue pill means everything's fine, nothing, everything that's happening in the world is just the same as it always was, and I think there's very few people left that think that, but some put on a facade that it's still that way, or they're too scared. But I think people are being shaken out of the blue pill. The red pill is a more honest approach. It's what woke should have been, which is let's look at the realities of the fact that not all that glitters is gold. I know a very well-known phrase, but it's true, and people don't apply it anymore. But now they're starting to, and really, it's very sad that people don't apply it. Let me just see if the microphone's working here. Um, Let me just check. Okay. Yeah. Okay. We're good on the microphone. Sometimes I have to adjust the settings. So that's the red pill and blue pill dynamic, and then there's all the reactions to the truth. Okay, just knowing the truth isn't enough. You have to know what to do with yourself. So there's a lot of people that they have these human reactions to the fact that life is not going to be the same anymore. There's corrupt forces running the world and ruining people's lives and businesses. Um, and one of them is the black pill, okay? And the black pill is basically like kind of like prepping. You just be ready for the end, and it's going to happen, and it's inevitable. Which isn't completely a bad, completely unwise way to look at the world. It's just very much hinging on despair, and that's not very healthy. So I'll eventually get there. And then lastly, we have at the top, which I'll talk about at the end of the show, the recently beatified as of today, Carlo Acutis, who is a very young saint and who was a kid. He was actually a tech geek. He was a complete nerd, and now he's someone we can pray to for intercession for the internet of all things. So God has a plan for the internet because there are plenty of people that are religious on the internet, plenty of patriots on the internet doing a lot of good things, and now we have an intercessor for the internet. I mean, clearly we do not need to be afraid of technology, afraid of change, as long as we know how to react to it properly. And I'm going to use his example as what the solution is, instead of us whining and complaining about the horrible tribulations upon us. So let's start with Mama Max. Now, I couldn't fit a picture of anything of Mama Max, but it's a very, easy name to find, and it's very easy to look him up. And he started with horror fiction. There's this community called the Creepypasta community, which is basically amateur horror fiction. I check in on them from time to time because they're actually getting pretty good. There's a lot of new horror and mystery authors that have started as creepypasta writers. It used to be really junky. It used to be like literal high school students or younger trying to be creepy. They were pretty corny stories. Some of them were pretty scary, but like they weren't very good technical writing. But now there's a lot of good stuff coming from there. A lot of budding authors. Hi, Liz. Can you hear me well? Thanks for coming to the show. Um, it's a low turnout today, but that's fine. People click on it usually on Sunday. Again, if you have any commentary, please put it in the comment section. And so that blossomed into better and better writing. And so there's this horror community that's online. But then there's this other community which Mama Max feeds from, and he kind of goes in between, which is the deep web mystery drama community on YouTube. And essentially that's like, you know, things, local legends on the internet, and hackers, and cartels, and underground secret cults, and all this stuff, which is from the deep web. The deep web is essentially anything that is not on the surface web, which is like the social media slash Google web browsing web. You'd have to actually know the URL to go there. Basically, a lot of the deep web is early 2000s internet, before everyone was using keyword searching. They had to type in the website. And because of that, a lot of stuff from the 90s and the early 2000s is still there. It's just you use this thing called the Tor browser, which I don't use. I don't want to get caught by the FBI and accidentally looking at something I'm not supposed to. Just clicking on something could be incriminating. And you shouldn't be looking for the stuff that's incriminating anyway. But there's this the U.S. Navy created this thing called Tor browser, where it creates a PIN, and you can't be tracked, and you can go on these old sites, or sites that no one really uses anymore, or sites that excuse me, criminals use, and you can check that out. And a lot of this stuff is creepy. A lot of this stuff are old websites from cults, real cults, like cults that Waco, Texas kind of cults, or UFO cults, or Charles Manson kinds of cults. There's a lot of cults on the internet. They actually use the internet a lot, and a lot of other weird things, such as conspiracy theories. And I don't mean like excuse me, the conspiracy theories that word thrown around at anything you don't like to hear. I mean like actual, um, you know, uh, abstract stuff, like there's a secret planet that the NASA is hiding from us, and they hide. There's all this hidden information, top secret Area 51 stuff that the government will never tell us, or there's the Illuminati, or also religious fundamentalists of different kinds and occultists and all kinds of people from many different walks of life with weird angles into life that probably wouldn't be accepted. They'd probably be, possibly thrown into an asylum if they just said it out loud in the middle of public. Um, and then lastly, of course, there's the criminal stuff, the drug running, the famous, infamous website known as the Silk Road, which that was busted a long time ago. The Silk Road, known for drugs, and then of course, there's tales of hitmen and trafficking and human trafficking, and all that goes to the deep web. And Mama Max is taking that because that stuff's creepy and weird and messed up. And he's taking the horror people and he's trying to turn them into this big mosh pit of people all coming together, which I find a pretty ingenious move on his part. Because if you have people, and this is what I try to do, it's like if you read fiction that involves these kinds of light versus darkness, good versus evil plots, or the world isn't what it seems, then maybe you're prepared to talk about what's going on in reality. And what's going on in reality ain't too good, is it? I mean, we had Jeffrey Epstein and that whole island thing. We have what goes on at the border. We have the fact that there's all these child predators on these new social media games that are constantly being busted, and they're out and about. There's even minor attracted persons trying to be made into an acronym, trying to get their way into the LGBT community. What else? We have all kinds of stuff on WikiLeaks that involves politicians. It just goes on and on and on. We had cuties that came out, and that's being indicted. Senator Ted Cruz brought that up, and I thank God for Texas, man. Texas is not putting up with Netflix. Netflix is in big trouble. Good riddance, I say. What else? Man, like COVID, and then there's all these. I mean, everyone's becoming a conspiracy theorist now. This whole idea of, oh, I'm not like those weird people that question narratives, and I'm like, well, if you're an American and if you pride yourself on being a thinking person, and if you actually went to school to learn how to think, then you shouldn't be looking down so hard on people that, even if they seem crazy, you shouldn't be looking down on people that question the narrative. I mean, that's how we got here. If we didn't question King George III's narrative, we wouldn't have any of this. I mean, or the narrative of slavery is okay, or the narrative of segregation of race is okay, or there's so many holes in this normie way of thinking. I'm just a normal person and I don't hurt a fly, and actually I will, because if you disturb my little comfort zone of what the TV tells me, with all the nice corporate ads and people in suits, I'm going to call you a weirdo, right? I mean, it's just phony, man. All right, we're obviously, those people are going nowhere fast. Anyone who's supporting that kind of mentality is going nowhere fast, and the people that are leading the truth and the people that are doing things include our very own President Donald Trump. Oh, I said it. I said it. I actually said the big word that everyone's going to go scream about, right? But why are you screaming? Okay? Why not? Like, look, you don't have to like the guy. You can think he's a monster, but if you really believe in all these plot twists with the villain isn't who you think it is and not all glitters is gold, if you really believe that, shouldn't you be on your guard? All right, so look into President Trump, see if he's done anything wrong, find some evidence. But why stop with him? Why not go after anything that seems to rub you the wrong way? You may find yourself in a much better position, right? Instead of going along with what everyone is saying, because that's how haven't you, if anyone's watching, I mean, I don't see many people out today right now, but when the Mama Max fans come here, and if you've watched horror movies, isn't it a cliche? I mean, Elizabeth, I don't think you watch horror movies that much, but I do. But the cliche is always that there's this dumb, tourist, usually it's a blonde woman, and she's the one who gets hacked to pieces because she's the most, she's constantly, or the overly pretentious uh guy, skeptic guy who's like, oh, there's no monster, and he's always making fun of it. Those are always the ones that get wiped off the face of the earth because they have no true open mindedness. They're always going along with everything's okay, and you know that's. Do you want to be like that person? And you may tell yourself, "Well, that's fiction." Well, that may be fiction in some regards, but when you check out crime statistics, especially if you live in a city, uh, and you check out all the ways that you can get completely run over in life, I mean, it does you some good to be on your guard and to actually question things, okay? If you look at history, which is the best kind of news, and see how many people actually died, okay, from which thing? How many people died from big, bad, meanie pants, mean people who are hard to deal with and question the narrative and you hurt your comfort zone versus people that tell you it's all fine? How about you check out communist China's records and Nazi Germany and Soviet Union? And on that note, why do you criticize the Nazis and you're obsessed with the Nazis, but you can't criticize the commies who killed more people? I'm not going to say one, that it was like, oh, the Nazis are okay. I'm just saying, like, let me tell you the number. You want to know the number? 200 million plus and counting people died from Marxism from 1 century alone. How's that for a horror movie? You think this stuff isn't real? Are you for real? Like, you know, that pretty much beats any sort of mean tweet you can see from anyone. I don't know. Which would you prefer? Mean tweets and people that may rub you the wrong way, or getting gassed or shot, or your family killed in front of you, or redistributed around and having to wait for a loaf of bread every week? You got to ask yourself these questions. I'm just saying. Um, so that's the first kind of darkness that I think people are kind of drawn into, coming from the deep web angle. But the other angle, which is the horror angle, is into something else. It blends into other. There's other forms of darkness. Okay, there's what I just talked about, and then there's also just the adventurous aesthetic of a horror or mystery story. Okay, the famous Edgar Allan Poe. Um, he started this whole moody storytelling, nightmare fuel genre, the horror and mystery genre. I'm a literature teacher, so I'm trying to brush up on my literature every once in a while to teach the kids. We go for classic literature. He started that. Many other authors followed. Of course, Bram Stoker's Dracula really helped with that. H.P. Lovecraft, many other inspired authors. But there is something to that. Why people like the dark stuff in an adventurous or artistic way. I think there is something to that, and I'll explain. First of all, when you're, I think the darkness, usually when we think of that, the most natural comparison is excuse me. The most natural comparison is the nighttime. Okay, a beautiful time, especially when the stars are out. People like, there's a picture here that's based. It's called the 28-year-old duder. It's based off of another meme where there's this thing called night walk, and I do that a lot. I actually like walking at night. I go to the boardwalk at night, where people that often want to be left alone and are kind of solitary, they walk around at night, getting some exercise in because they might have long hours of the day shift, or they just don't want to be around too many people. Um, but I think when you look at nighttime, um, there's less people out there. Things are starting to calm down. Things are at rest, and it's just you and the breeze and the trees and maybe some bats flying around and the stars and the moon. I think the first thing people really like about this stuff is that, and since I read along with these fiction and I get that adventurous spirit. There's no sense in modern society of this of adventure and solitude and being yourself. All the labels are gone. You're no longer in your little circle of labels. It's just you and the great unknown. Okay, and that can be a good thing and a bad thing, but I think there's a point to that. Plus, I think the biological rhythms of our bodies. We start to fall asleep. We become more dreamlike during that time, and of course, um, along with all of that, with the dreams and just psychologically, there's a lot across the board in terms of spirituality and religion about the spooks that come out. Of course, Halloween is coming. We all know that spooky things, evil things, strange things are done in the darkness where they cannot be seen. Okay. But I think that it's not just spooky stuff. I think it's people actually are drawn to having some time off. It doesn't really surprise me, and I wonder if it's even worse in urban areas where, it's already pretty busy. I'm not too sure on that, but I would, venture to guess that there are probably a lot of people that feel that way. And why is that important? Well, I think it's a reaction, an instinctual reaction to the collective hive mind that people are becoming. That is very unnatural, actually. The Industrial Revolution was 100 something years before now, so 1890, maybe go a little bit back a little bit further. It's at least 130 years old now, and the accomplishments of electricity and steel buildings, all these things that allow us to live closer together, are came even sooner. What were most people doing before then? They were living in more local ways of life, in more self-sufficient ways of life. They did rely on the community, but they were still self-sufficient. They relied on the face-to-face communication. They relied on making their own entertainment, and they relied on God and spirituality, especially in Western civilization. They relied on that. They relied on the goodwill of people, especially if you live in the United States. Um, the United States was founded with John Locke and Judeo-Christian principles. Even if you say that the founding fathers weren't completely Christian, they were deist. The people, the normal people living in America, many of them, especially the patriotic people that fought in the war, were they were part of the first great awakening, where there's this idea of that life is more than just making money. Life is what the height of life is to love, okay? Because that's what it says, one, in the Bible. That's what they would look at that quite clearly. And two, that's what everyone really craves. Yes, we should become as prosperous as possible, in as much as taking care of our families and living relatively healthily, but that's not the end all. And is that what we're seeing anymore? And it was a very subtle shift. Okay, this is what Blackpilled, this guy in this his video, "The Party Is Over," is talking about. There was a shift that no one really saw coming, a spiritual shift where it's like people are just they get so caught up in the business. And Elizabeth, you've probably seen this. You get so caught up in the business that it's like the devil steals away your childlike innocence, and it's like I don't even remember what I was doing this for anymore. I got plenty of money, but I don't even know how to have fun, how to relax, how to be at peace with my fellow man. How if there's anything more meaningful than this, I don't know. I'm just got my image to keep up. That's where a lot of people are at. And of course, the young are kind of confused because they are instinctually more drawn towards something more than just worldly possessions, but there's no other option. They have to. It's becoming more of a have to. I have to go to college. I have to get a good job, or I'll be shamed. I'll be looked at as a loser. This is all completely new fabrications. The world was not like this for a long time, and you may I don't believe that just because we've been doing something for thousands of years it's okay. But I also believe that if the fruits are rotten, if the fruits are greater mental illness, selfishness, and everything falling apart, and no one's happy, I think we got to call a spade here. It's a failure. All right, it's a failure, and it was a big mistake. And lo and behold, greed is not a good thing to do. The chase becomes the goal. Thank you, Elizabeth. Um, so, when someone is disillusioned by this, or when someone just feels as if there's more to themselves in the world than that, they will chase it via perhaps looking at becoming gothic, becoming dark, maybe in the mind, or maybe they even put on dark clothes, and it to me it's really retreating to it's like retreating to your, when you see little kids, and I'm a teacher, they imagine things, they play make believe. Okay, that side of us never really leaves, because that's why we have the arts and literature. Okay, and that's always going to be a part of us. Um, so no, it's not a completely bad thing. Now, um, there are some bad. It can turn bad without any good direction. It can turn bad very quickly. Um, but to be grounded in the existence of death, of evil, and of suffering, and that is much better than some ridiculous fugazi who pretends that it's all good, man. I wonder if some of these boomers are like, they're kind of like the drugs they did at Woodstock, where it's all good. They're trying to like keep that going, but it's not working. But they're trying to put into corporate life. It's very interesting. Um, so that's where we're at, and um, I made this video, said Mom Max fans need to go deeper. Okay, so what was I trying to say there? I was trying to say that if you acknowledge the darkness, you have to acknowledge the light, which is God, which is truth. But the reason why a lot of people want to retreat into the darkness, and I think this is why, and they want to stay dark, and they don't trust religious morons like me, or anyone that's kind of overly hopeful and positive. And I'm not overly hopeful and positive. I mean, trust me, I have my days anyway. I literally can be a duder or a doomer or some dark looking guy when I'm really feeling down and out. So this is just me on a good day. But overall, I consider myself a joyful person. Maybe not in the way that many people think. But why don't they trust, a guy that looks like Carlo to the top left? This kid with the backpack, or anyone that's happy, because there's too much fake happiness out there. There's too much fake peace, fake love, fake. And they're right. Okay? It's just fake. All right? No one really wants just materialism. Okay? We don't want it. I don't want another bigger house. I don't want another. I mean, some people think they do. They're deceiving themselves. I don't want another pair of shoes. You don't really want it. Maybe you're trying to tell yourself you do, but you don't. You're trying to fill some hole, as a very common saying. You're trying to fill something. It's not going to work. Okay, it's not going to work at all. Grumpypotamus is the word. Thank you, Elizabeth. Um, so yes, the grumps do not trust that. That's why the grumps are. I think a lot of grumps are turned off by religion. I mean, please come out to the 8 p.m. Eastern and you'll see what we're talking about. I mean, a lot of the people that are in religion, that run religion, they're complete hacks, and everyone knows it. And it's a shame, because now when people look at them, they look at regular people that actually believe and have a connection with something, and they don't even know that the regular people are trying to fight that fakeness too. I mean, especially us, right? But and then of course it's just so boring to talk to a to just to talk to someone who's constantly trying to put on a fake act. Who wants to sit around and talk about um what do they talk about? I don't know, the gossip of the day. Oh, I'm sure many people do it all the time and pretend that makes them interested, but it doesn't satisfy because they're not happy. Okay, people that gossip all the time about, oh, what did he do? What did she do? Oh, did you hear what that TV show that's literally based off of gossip? Oh, the soap operas, all this junk, reality TV is nothing in comparison to the human intellect and imagination truly going into the beyond. Okay, and so they don't want to have to deal with that. All right, so they'll look for their moody things because they're looking for anything to get away from that garbage. That's what I think this is. All right, the angst isn't a bad thing if we know what to do with it. So and look at Mama Max. He's busting child predators. I don't see any of the dressed moderately to successfully makeup channels and any of them doing anything like that. You know, all these Facebook happy, look at me, I'm wearing a COVID mask. Oh, good for you. You're saving lives. Even though 6% of the deaths are really directly from COVID, but of course you won't talk about that. And, that little inconvenient truth. Oh, look at me. I'm such a good person because this is what everyone's talking about. It's just not cool. Okay. And I think people can also see there's a power to being yourself, to being to looking into things that most people don't look into. Even though it can be dangerous, it's still better than the status quo, the blue pill. Okay. Another thing is the reality of evil. Okay, evil exists, and I'm glad people are starting to think like that. Without the existence of evil or the reality of evil, how can we have true good? If we don't have um, the opposite, how can we find goodness again? And I think that's another draw to this kind of stuff. People are surrounded by the fake light, and the fake light is actually often demonic. Okay, I mean, first of all, if you know about Christian history here, people used to refer to the devil as Lucifer or Mephistopheles. Many still do, but those are much better terms than just Satan for today's times because that's the seductive side of the devil. He's fake. He's a fake light. And I definitely think he's behind a lot of this PC, mamby-pamby, don't say that, mother may I, fake manners weaponized to shut down people that tell the truth. Not saying that we shouldn't have manners. I'm just saying it's getting kind of sketchy. Just saying, YouTube. Just saying, with what you're pulling on people trying to say certain things about particular parties and entities that are perhaps funding you, Soros, perhaps. Um, it's getting, it turns out that a lot of time when people are fake, they're not even neutral. They're actually quite manipulative and scary, which I actually enjoy those kinds of plot twists. The fake good guy, right? Um, so so that's I think we're reaching a first step possibly here, okay? And if we think maybe the what we consider, light and glorious has been so fake that it isn't attractive. I mean, it's a good question. How many times have people really run into heroes? Um, there's no heroes anymore. Heroes can be attractive, but the heroes have been marred so much by Hollywood. We think of these ridiculous characters that are goofy, and I think that's part of the agenda. They're playboys or they're cheesy line people, and I like the cheesy lines sometimes, or they're they're just the guns, the typical nothing original. Like I can't stand the Fast and the Furious movies and The Rock. Like, it's just like, oh, I'm a macho guy and that's it. And because I'm a beast with a gun and I am the most skilled, I'm gonna take out the obvious bad guy with the mustache practically, and he's just so mean and evil. And it's like, okay, so that's all you do? Do you actually like have meaningful discussions with people? Do you have something else other than your one-dimensional personality or whatever? Um, so you know, I think that if there was a camera negative to the darkness, it would be something that's rather heavenly. If you took a camera negative, reverse print, and it's like you take someone who looks very gothic and you switch it to colorized version. Um, it would be. It's almost like um, flipping it. If you flipped the darkness, you flipped it to the light. I think you would actually get someone that's kind of saintly, right? I don't think there's that much of a difference because both these moody people and the saint are searching for some higher truth and an adventure. One is looking for God. The other one is just not sure what they're looking for, but they know they don't want to be around what's over back there. And sadly, many of these people could be potential artists and musicians that just don't have the means to express themselves, and there's no patrons of the art anymore that's any good. So, they're stuck having to go through the rat race of college, and they hate it, or maybe they want to just be parents, mothers and fathers. They just want to be simple folk that have some hobbies, but again, they have to get their stupid degrees. How are we going to run a nation with just doctors, lawyers, and engineers? Beats me. Seems like a lot of unnecessary debt, unless someone actually has a calling for that. But that's, I've covered that in a previous episode. Um, yeah, heroes can be very charismatic, and it's very hard to run into people like that are down to earth, charismatic, and good, striving to be selfless. I guess I try to be. I mean, I don't consider myself a big one, but I don't even consider myself like a hero. I'm just not. I'm just trying to lead people to something better. But I'm not. I'm not talking as if I'm the one here. I'm just saying that we need to have some standards in the other direction, and we have to wipe the table clean of all these fake standards of just I'm a guy who's successful. I have lots of money and a wife or a husband and I have children. Hello, welcome to my house. I mean, those people aren't even happy because it's empty, you know? So, what do we got to do to get from the darkness into true light? And the darkness as an aesthetic, I don't even think is bad necessarily because God created nighttime and all these things. And I mean, I'm part of a religion that has Gothic cathedrals and, and this idea of hell and purgatory and all these things that are pretty hardcore. The cross, I mean, there's a lot of dark things about my faith. It's just there's a victory over the darkness. It's not that the darkness doesn't exist. Um, so, so what do we do? So first, you have the 28-year-old duder. I had to make the picture a bit smaller so that the chat could show up. But the 28-year-old duder is basically me on my bad days, okay? It's a guy who's disillusioned and disappointed with the world, still trying to be thankful for life, searching for something better. Um, and he has these issues. He's trying to make way. He's trying to be responsible, but he just can't put his heart into. I mean, he sees where the culture and society is going, and it's like, is it even worth fighting for? Okay, that's the duder, all right. And this is where a lot of the people that watch Black Pilled slash probably Mama Max 2 are at. That's like step one, okay. And the danger of just looking at the abyss is becoming black pilled. Okay, I like your channel, black pilled. You say a lot of good things, but I can't agree with the black pill. And even though I feel black pilled a lot of the times, trust me, Elizabeth knows I feel black pilled. I mean, Thomas feels black pilled sometimes. I mean, sometimes we jump. You know, even St. Paul believed the world's going to end, and the world may be ending. Um, but we can't lose our hope. And a lot of the black pilled stuff, our sorrow, our depression, our anger, our denial, whatever it is actually stuff that is the rebellious, selfish side of us that kind of wants the status quo reacting with the truth in a very weird way. Let me explain. Why are you depressed? And the 28-year-old duder is depressed because he can't find a girlfriend that isn't just playing games. He can't find, a good enough job because everything's outsourced, and he can't find good friends or many friends because everyone's so PC and sensitive and snowflakey, and they can't take it. They can't take it at all, including men. You think that's a girl voice I'm using? No, I'm using a man's voice, or today's men's voice. Okay, they can't even, and they have a breakdown, and I don't know how you could be such a fill in the blank ist, and they have to deal with that nonsense. They have their own responsibilities. A lot of them are living, like myself, living at home because they're trying to save up money because, so they can pay off their debts and have something because the apartment rates are too dang high, especially if you live in the East and West Coast. That's what we're dealing with here. Um, but you don't want to get stuck there. You don't want to get stuck in the black pill because there's no point to it. There's some serious logical problems. First of all, the I you know the idea that that any given civilization lasts is not proven by history. All civilizations crumble, which means America must eventually crumble. And if we're at that point, then that's something that we have to see as kind of like, the existence of gravity, not as, oh my gosh, this wasn't supposed to happen. Okay? We have to digest that, yes, the world and society can fall apart. And honestly, should the society being intact really be what gives us our peace? I mean, what has society done for us? It's given us McDonald's and Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble's the best because you can get books from there, and it's given us the internet, which is used well or not, and you can connect with some people more than usual. And you have smartphones, which can be entertaining, but they can be addicting. I mean, and then there's the taxes, and there's the DMV, and there's the postal service. Okay, like, so what? So what? Okay, we're looking at another societal collapse. I lived through the Obama years were even worse. Everyone just thought it was great, but it was worse than this. The housing crisis, there's a bunch of people that wanted a big house and they crashed the economy. They didn't have to do that. Okay, all this stuff, when you really think about you, forget everyone else, put away the altruism for a second, although you need to try to be altruistic. And it's like, what is it? What does that have to really do with who I am and my inner peace and my happiness and what really gives me joy in life? Not much, man. These are just gimmicks. Okay. Um. So that should have never been in our. Oh, this whole idea of, oh, I'm going to go through the system and it's going to be so smooth and I'm just going to plod through it and just early retirement. I mean, that was always predicated on some very big assumptions. Okay. Um, Going through the system, would that have ever been good anyway? I mean, let's be real, okay? So this video that Black Pilled made called "The Party's Over," he's talking about how guys lament not being able to go out in the club anymore. Okay, let's get that's what it's about. Okay, and because they have to find a girlfriend. I literally was in that mood at one point where I have to go to a nightclub because perhaps I'll find a girl who I can date who'll be serious. What kind of society is worth that? What kind of society is good where you have to go into a setting which is conducive to just one night stands instead of actual? I mean, the music's too darn loud. You literally can't hear anything, especially with that stupid dubstep they had in college. You literally can't hear anyone. It's literally too loud. The beer is terrible. And people are too drunk, or they can't hear you, or they themselves do not have enough know-how and stuff in their brain to have a good conversation, and they may not like you who you are, they just like the way you look. And regardless if you're a man or woman, if you really think about that, that's the culmination of your wonderful American experience in college or maybe after college. Is that really like the culmination of all glory here? Is that the pièce de résistance? I mean, that's pretty sad. We that's really sad. Was that worth preserving? That's the thing that probably. I mean, that's why we're here. That's why we're so messed up because of this nonsense. Um, if the let's just throw this out here. If the society collapses and we have to go back to actually talking to each other like human beings again and loving each other, and people start having faith in something more than themselves again, and we're poorer but we have more personality, that would actually be more conducive to romance, in my opinion, than the junk that we have now. I mean, how can you? And it's sad because when a kid goes through high school and they think of, they have their childlike good natured spirits possibly still intact. Some of them, sadly, many get corrupted by 11th and 12th grade, and they're already kind of on their way out. But when they think of college and these, oh, I'll go to college and I'll find a dream job and maybe a partner or whatever, someone that loves me, or I'll find great friends. All of their ideas are coming from the idea that there will be innate in inner life there, that there's some joy and love there, that you'll get to know people. But that's been stripped away anyway, and the concept is gone. All people care about is money. um, and don't get me wrong, I've met some great people in college, but for the most part, people, especially my age, do not know how to talk about anything. They're too scared of controversy. They're too scared of creativity. They're too scared of self-control and keeping their pants on, and taking it slow if you're going to go the route of dating or whatever, and getting to know that person and going for the even more thrilling romance, which is actually more thrilling. But because they don't have the virtue to get there, they're stuck. Okay. Um, Hey, Crazy Frog, welcome. How many BTC do I need to survive the apocalypse, and how do I prevent my kid from turning trans? Well, Crazy Frog, if you are worried about that, then you're already on your way to your kid not turning trans, because most people that have trans kids kind of push them along. Let's just say that. The parent pill is one heck of a pill on how wonderful parents are these days. Um, so yeah, I don't think it was really worth preserving anyway. Okay. Another thing is you got to get more local in the way you're thinking, because again, we're thinking about saving the world, save the world, my final message. And a lot of these woes are coming from, oh man, the stocks are crashing and maybe the cities are burning and people are going to be indoctrinated. And yeah, that's all bad. But again, you look at history, there's a cycle to this. And sadly, evil often gets on the scene and corrupts a society. This isn't the first time it's happened. And there's no point in being surprised that the world is easily corrupted, because it already always was. And so are you. Okay? A lot of this stuff is because we have things to forgive and to be healed within our inside of ourselves, which is often why people like going for their night walks, because they want that solitude. They need to like be like, I got to take a break from this crap. Um, so so that's the doomer. Okay. I usually try to keep it within 1 hour, and I will. But the other problem, see, if you get too black pilled, you can become like Antifa Chris to the bottom left. Okay, Antifa Chris. This is this emotional knee jerk reaction of the system needs to be taken down, man. Tear down the system. The system is always going to end up corrupt eventually. It's always going to happen. If you're going to be you're in a very rare age, a golden age. If you're in a golden age where the system is run by good people, you better be grateful for any time you have a good system, and don't expect it to last long. And furthermore, these knee jerkers, they they spend all their life trying to be activists, right or left wing, but definitely the left wing. I mean, and crazy. The one bottom left is my twin. Um, and so these people often get manipulated by the system. Okay, it's just pure chaos, right? George Soros, who is a Jewish guy who helped the Nazis kill his own people, who is a total corporatist, is funding the anti-fascist guys to do what exactly? Take down the government and insert Joe Biden or something? Where, like, the levels of problems that I'm seeing just from who's funding these guys shows me that they're not working with a full deck of cards here, whoever these people are. And they're getting their lives ruined, okay, unnecessarily. And if they broke down the system, well, the system is only part of the main human condition problem anyway. The system, all that you can do mostly for the system is to try to get it reformed so that it doesn't kill too many people. But it's a necessary evil. John Locke looked at the system like that, and he was right. And even Hobbes, who was a little bit more pro system, two of the great thinkers that led to many of the ideas of Western democratic civilization, even they were like, man, the system is just a ticking time bomb. And I'm not saying be a true anarchist, but definitely don't be one of those anarcho communists who blow things up and want to set up a government that will stop fascism. Totally won't be ironic there. No comparisons to the Russian or French Revolution at all. So that's not going to work. Okay, this whole, oh yeah, and even the right wing, man. All right, you guys are not going to reproduce the Muslims. It's not going to happen. Okay, you're not going to get an ethno state. You're not going to get a traditional Catholic state. There's not enough of us, and or you or whoever I'm part of the Catholic sphere. There's not enough Catholics. I'm just telling you right now. It's down to divine intervention and miracles or nothing, or we're toast. There's no numbers game to be played unless we become like Spartans or something. I mean, you can win wars, with lesser numbers, but all right, let's just get that out of your head. You're not going to save the world, at least not that way, okay? And then you're going to spend all your time trying to save the world, and what? Like, what if it doesn't work? What if your earthly means don't amount to anything? What if you just get killed? What if you fall down the stairs or get hit in traffic or whatever? You're trying to make your identity the earthly success in just another way. Okay? You have to find something that empowers you, that gives you peace, that gives you happiness in the moment so that you can have a smooth ride while lifting up everyone. Um so then comes the next level. Now, the bottom right guy is this meme called Boomer Dante from Devil May Cry. He's this really charismatic and funny character from a video game. Who I just find this so funny because it's an old video game, so technically he'd be like a Gen X boomer, not a baby boomer, but like definitely a Gen X boomer. Um, I don't know his exact age, But the thing I love about him is how nonchalant he is. He kills monsters and the world ends all the time, but he's always joking around. And I guess he's like the original cultural Deadpool, but I like him more. He's a little bit more serious than Deadpool. Deadpool's just kind of like an actual Looney Tunes joke character. Um, but he saves the world, but he does it with a smile and humor, right? And he clearly enjoys what he does, which is using his sword and superpowers to kill the demons. Um, that's better, okay? Believe it or not, the boomer pill is better than the doomer or Antifa or whatever that Antifa is. Is the Antifa a pill? Well, Antifa is just woke idiocy. It's just chaos. It's just Slaneshi chaos, okay? I don't know what else to call it. But I there's this whole thing of the Zoomers, Doomers, Boomers. Well, if you actually combine all three of the good points of those, the Zoomers being the teens who are kind of like these goofy kids who play video games, and the Doomer being the kind of realistic, honest skeptic to the world not going to last and that things just fall apart and there's something wrong with people. And then there's the Boomer who knows that there's something wrong with people, but still tries to look at nostalgia in the old days, and make he's trying to make life as happy and simple. He's just trying to he's got his barbecue. A lot of these boomer memes. He's got his barbecue and his Monster Zero. I don't know where the Monster Zero thing came from. Someone needs to tell me why Monster Zero of all things. Was it just random? But he's jovial. He's trying to enjoy life while it's still there. If you combine all those good points, okay, together, that is the solution that black pilled and that all these edgy people are, I think, need to realize that's the next step. It's a very individualistic, dangerous, yet exciting way to live life. Um, but I think that's the next step. It brings everything centered back to the fact that you have one life to live. You could go at any moment, and you have to find something selfless, something meaningful, something that builds up people around you, regardless of whether or not the global whatever is falling apart, regardless of whether or not all odds are stacked against you. But here's the issue: you won't be able to go beyond the black pill without either becoming a depressive, becoming a hedonist, becoming a nihilist, and you will always be half cocked without a, something missing here. If you look at these memes and paradigms and all these problems in the world and forget about all the organized religion stuff and just for a moment, if Jesus was a character or an answer to this, how would he fit in? What I think Jesus would kind of resemble what I'm talking about if you combine all the good points. Okay? That is the true Christianity. This is true Christianity. Okay? If you combine these good points. And I think that's what Carlos Acutis here represents. Blessed Carlos Acutis, pray for us. This guy was an internet geek. Look, he did what he could. He loved God. He spread the word of God. He prayed for people, and prayer can change things. And yes, and doesn't that go well with the whole geeky, nerdy thing? This whole idea of supernatural powers. Well, it's worth a shot. I'm just saying because it can happen. And he put all of his chips in on the Lord, and he said, "That's it. I'm in. I'm in. All right. This guy could fit in with any one of these other types of people I'm mentioning here. He could just be, he could be a kid today. Um, and so yeah, the Zodobo, right? Yeah, and so I think that's what I'm trying to say here is I'm saying that um, embrace it, embrace the end of the world in a positive, hopeful way. If it is the end of the world, embrace the transitory nature of life. Embrace the fact that you need to be validated by something higher, that's by the love of God, something that doesn't rest on all of these other imbeciles that you have to, that your parents or the society tells you to rely on, that can be taken away with a little coof, with a little COVID cough. Everything gets taken away. This is the humbling that we're in for. And once you can rest in the Lord, and then everything can flow from that. And even if nothing is really coming to you, if we're in a third world Venezuela, Africa situation, you'll be happy. I know it's very strange, isn't it? How could you be happy and looking like Carlo Acutis or some other saint when you have nothing but rags on and you're living like a hermit? Well, perhaps there's something more to this world. Perhaps there's something in the darkness. Perhaps the supernatural exists. Perhaps there's a greater meaning than just sex, money, and power. So that's my little spiel. Um, and please just take your time with it. Crazy Frog, thank you for coming out. I don't know if you're a believer or not, but just digest what I said. I see you mentioned the most extreme religious people. Yeah, a lot of the extreme religious people are actually reactionaries. Just like we have a lot of traditionalist Catholics, and they're not bad. They want to help, but they still believe in a political, like a they believe their peace rests in the action hero ending of, oh look, we just mowed down all of the globalists or something and we restored Western civilization, yeehaw. And I would love that too. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd love to see people walking around and believing in good values and not being so PC. Although if it was done wrongly, it would be kind of boring and it could be very oppressive. I mean, I drive 50 miles west of here. I run to Amish country, and I love the Amish people, but I can't agree completely with that Luddite way of thinking. I think that it isn't a sin to be creative or have a personality. In fact, it is a sin, according to St. Thomas Aquinas, to not have a personality or have any humor. I forget the name. He has some fancy Latin name for it. Um, maybe it's a good thing that they're getting humbled and they're realizing, some of them, they're realizing they have to have a spiritual solution first. I know, right? Spiritual solution from a religion, crazy. But yeah, not that I'm against a lot of their political stances, but I think they're seeing the dead end. And I don't completely agree with their stance there. Thanks for coming out. And Diesel, excellent Bible passage. And yes, the grief, the sorrow, I think that's not something to be completely looked down on or avoided. It should be tampered with prayer and meditation and trying to have hope and trying to stay in your lane so that you don't get too upset. But no, I don't think it's necessarily bad that people get edgy, because if you don't have concern for your neighbor or what's going on in the world, you don't have a living, beating heart. You're just some you know, kind of social narcissist or a sociopath or someone that just wants to make everything look beautiful and nice and pretty no matter what, or you could be trying to cope or hide. Head in the sand doesn't work. We all know that. So it's still better than head in the sand. So that's it. I've rambled on enough. I got to head out. Thank you for coming out to the show. And I have a playlist awake. You can check that out on this channel. And again, Utopiana tonight, 8 p.m. Eastern. I'll be there with Thomas to talk about the church.